Baka mapunta kami sa list. Sana huwag naman kami sa list. Saglit lang po.
Good afternoon. We would like to request everyone who are currently joining us in this meeting to please turn off all your videos and audios. Thank you.
Okay. May sinend silang pasok, i-email silang
Hindi nga ako nakapag-log.
Hindi siya nakaregister, hindi niya naalala. Pinapin na
Hindi ko sila naririnig.
Wala kasi.
Hindi, kahit kung tatanga ako, abot ang labas eh.
Ay,
Ayan yung sensor.
paano naman mag-ano sa screen yan?
Ay, naman. May 20 hours pa nga. Straight tayo.
Nag-a-assist ko. Hindi katulad sa akaburo, ano agad, no?
Ganun ba? Pero
Serve online lecture series. CPEO serve stands for Sharing Expertise Towards Resiliency Through Variable Extension. We would like to thank you for joining in this lecture series. Ang layunin po ng CPEO serve ay makaresponde po sa mga pangangailangan ng ating mga partner communities and schools sa kabila ng pandemya sapagkat hindi po matitigil ng pandemya or kahit na anong sakuna ang ating pagtulong sa mga nangangailangan. To formally start our CPEO serve, let me introduce to you our speaker for today. So Dr. Evelyn C. Bagapo is a member of the PNU faculty with expertise in guidance and counseling and psychology. She is a registered guidance counselor and a psychologist. She earned her Doctor of Philosophy in Guidance and Counseling at the Philippine Normal University, Manila, and her MA Psychology at the Polytechnic University of the Philippines. Currently, she is the coordinator for the Special Population Office of the Student Affairs and Student Services of PNU, a faculty also of the Graduate School of the University. She teaches counseling and psychology licensure courses both for MA and PhD levels. She has held administrative posts also in the university as the officer in charge of the Office of the Student Affairs and Student Services and the director of the Office of Admissions. Dr. Bagapo had served as validator in the Bureau of Curriculum Development of the Department of Education in the development of the Homeroom Program Teaching Guide. She has also served as resource speaker in local and international fora, and we are blessed to have her as our first speaker in this first edition of CPEO Serve. Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce to you Dr. Evelyn C. Bagapowo.
Good afternoon and welcome participants from Manila, SDO Marikina, San Luis Batangas, and others who are watching this live broadcast. I hope that we will have some takeaways after this session. I'm happy to be able to present one of my advocacies, which is strengthening the Filipino family. I believe that a strong family makes a strong nation. So, what can we say about that? As an adult, the human being is the most powerful being on earth. However, it is also among the weakest at birth. Horses and antelopes can readily stand and run after birth, but our early survival is dependent solely on the attention, care, and affection of our families. So very helpless yung mga bata kapag sila ay kapapanganak lang. Now, I would like to discuss the webinar title, and it summarizes what topics to expect in the session. Let me focus on three concepts: the family, dynamics, and season. Family has many definitions nowadays. I think you are very, very familiar with that. The common definition is blood relationships, yung mga kadugo natin. The usual, mother, father, sister, grandparents. However, they can also be other ways, like being close or staying with people that we like and treating them as family. Sabi nga ng iba, yung auntie mo, kulang na lang na pinanganak ka. Meron ba dito na inalagaan ng mga auntie? Parang mother na natin sila. Or as a close friend, which we say, she's family. Yung mga beshies natin, yon ay family na. Lahat alam nila. In that sense, we are never without a family. So another concept is dynamics. Dynamics here is defined as an active, ongoing flow. So it's never static. It's a procedure. It is a state composed of many events. Kaya nga dynamics ang nilagay ko dito para nakita natin na nagbabago. Kung merong mga difficulties, pwede namang baguhin yan. It is never static but could change depending on the direction of the members. In Tagalog, it could be translated as relasyon. Ano mga relasyon ninyo? Or kalakaran. Ano ang mga kalakaran sa pamilya? The third concept is season. Why did I not simply put pandemic? Kasi pwede naman ilagay ko na lang, pandemic na lang, hindi ko nalagyan ng season. Because I want to identify and to describe this COVID-19 event as like anything else a season. Diba sabi nga nila, merong mga panahon. Pagka sinabi nila panahon ng May, panahon ng mga prutas, panahon ng mangga, panahon ng masasarap na kakainin. Well, like that one, it is just a space and time in our lives which is characterized by a specific or particular feature. In this case, it is defined by illness and potion. However, like all seasons, it is expected to pass and fade into memory. Natatandaan niyo pa ba yung sabi nila noon, a few years ago, walang forever. Okay, so itong pandemic, hindi ito forever. Although since March, we have already been in quarantine. Okay, so it seemed forever. The lessons of the season, however, stays with us for the rest of our lives. So what are the objectives of this talk? Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so what are the objectives of this learning session? At the end of the session, the participants are expected to, well, first of all, describe the common Filipino parenting values, including gender issue. So we are supposed to describe, ano nga ba yan? This is according to research. Kasi alam naman natin, maging obedient, ganyan. Pero ito, this is according to research. We will be discussing commonly shared values. Usually, those values handed down to us. So ito yung mga pinamana sa atin. Ano-ano nga ba yun? Ito bang values na meron ka ngayon, pinamana ba yan? O ginawa mo lang? Do you want to validate your values also? Sa tingin mo ba, ikaw lang ang may value na ganyan? Tingnan natin dito sa webinar na to. Number 2, illustrate how the pandemic has affected the Filipino family. What are its positive and negative effects on our values? Alam nyo, our values have been in existence long time ago. And now, this came in, itong pandemic na to. Ano ba ang epekto nito sa ating families? How can we use this season as an opportunity to strengthen and protect our families? Okay, and then number 3, synthesize ways on how to manage common family values. So kung ano man yan, minamanage yan. We will be discussing ways of managing or coping with the different situations present during this pandemic. At iyon ay marami. But we're going to discuss only the common ones. We hope that the participants will be able to identify the issues in their own families and modify or adopt some measures tackled in this webinar. Okay, next slide please. Okay, now we have an activity. Ready na ba kayo? Okay, so please identify at least 2 family values which you think your parents instilled in you when you were a child. I will give you 15 pesos. 15 seconds, sorry, not 15 pesos. You may use the chat group to share the values. Okay? Sige nga, tingnan natin. And then compare it with the values of other participants. Okay? Huwag nang mag-isip ng malalalim. Baka sabihin, ano nga ba yun? Kaya iniisip pa natin. Because ang unang dalawang pagpapahalaga na sumaisip ay ang pinaka-importante sa atin. It is like favorite people's names popping out of our heads. So, mano, strong family ties, using po at opo. Okay, ano pa? Paggamit ng po at opo, respect, pagiging magalang. Ano pa? Respeto sa nakakatanda, pagdalaw ng sakit. Yes, very good. Saying po, respect to elders. Okay, masunurin. Yan. So, tingnan natin, sa tingin nyo, ganyan ba rin yung values, no? Ganyan ba rin? Okay? Respect to elders, madasalin, family ties. Okay, so pareho rin yung values, Yes, pray before going to bed. Okay, pagmamano. Okay, very good. Okay, pag-oorasyon. Oo, I'm so happy meron pang nag-oorasyon, Yung iba nakalimutan na yata yan. Pagbe-bless sa mga nakakatanda. Okay, very good. So, merong marami tayong pare-parehong values, Okay, next slide please. Recognize at least 2 of your current strongest family values. Okay, next. Recognize 2 of your strongest current family values which you foster in your family. The other slide, yung mas previous dyan, may activity, the second activity, yan. Recognize at least 2 of your current strongest family values. Sige nga, sa chat group din. What are they? No, ano naman yung ngayon? Kasi dati yun ang pinamana sa atin. Ito naman, ano ang pinapatupad natin na values sa family? In what ways are they similar with the values in which you were taught as a child? Oh, wala na kayong pinapatupad na values. Okay, magmahalan. Wow, ang sweet naman. Okay, ano pa? O yung values natin. Respect. Okay, so they are very similar. Tulungan ng kapatid. Yes. Okay. Pagtutulungan. Kasi sino pa ang tutulong kung hindi tayo? Strong family ties. Kanina, respect to elders. Bayanihan. Magtulungan. Respect. Okay, faith to each other. Pagsasama ng buong pamilya. Okay, so as I can see, very, very similar doon sa pinapatupad ng ating mga magulang. Okay, next slide please. Now we go to the Filipino family. Ano ba ang pamilya para sa isang Pilipino? Sabi ni Hocano, I think you are very familiar with Landa Hocano, it's the most important social group for Filipinos. Ito ang sentro ng kanilang universe. Diba ang sabi nga nila, mawala na ang lahat, wag lang pamilya ko. Pamilya ko ang rason kung bakit ako nagtatrabaho. Pamilya ko ang rason kung bakit ako nag-aaral. As Filipinos, we are collectivists. So, ano ba ang collectivists? We value the prioritization of the group over the self. So, grupo muna. Kahit nakalimutan mo ang pamilya, ang sarili mo, no? It includes prioritizing the family over other families. Pamilya ko muna bago ibang pamilya. Our barkada over other barkadas and such. Siyempre, the barkadas ko muna kaysa iba. Kapag naiiba o sumusuway ang isang miyembro ng pamilya, Di ba sasabihan natin, isa na, susolo ka na ba? Our collectivist culture focuses on shame and seek to avoid it. Mahiya ka naman, mahiya ka sa ate mo, hindi ka nagmano, o kaya hindi mo pinatuloy, nakakahiya. Okay? So any type of conflict, like saying no in Tagalog, or pagsalungat sa opinyon ng matagal na at nakakaraming iba, ay iniiwasan. Collectivism gives us security and comfort. Kaya yung minsan, di ba, kahit na sa grupo, kung merong magtaas ng kamay, saka lang tayo magtataas ng kamay. Kanina sa chat group, kung hindi may mag-isa, so, yan, indication yan na meron tayong collectivism. And also, it is the primary educational institutions and parents are our first teachers. You know, I did a research on top performing students. Sino tong mga to? DOST, honor students, states lister, na may financial challenges. Kasi, iniisip ko, bakit despite their financial challenges, they were able to make it. A lot of them considered their parents. So ito yung isa sa help of significant others. No? A lot of them considered their parents, either their mother or father, as their first teachers. O yung parents dyan, o yung iba dyan na nakikinig, siguro sasabihin mo, paano ako makakapagturo ay hindi naman ako nakatapos? Elementary lang po natapos ko. You know, our children have very good explanations for that. Okay? Out of 30 participants, 19 or more of them stated that they underwent scaffolding by their parents. Di ba yung scaffolding pagtuturo? So you are trying to make them reach a certain level of expertise with your guidance. And they did that. The parents did that before and during formal schooling. Alam niyo kung anong ginawa ng mga parents nila? Before formal school, their parents taught them basic reading, writing, and the alphabet. Hindi naman siguro natin kailangang matapos para makapagturo ng ganon, di ba? During formal schooling, their parents continued to guide them in their academics and assignments. Ang sabi ng ibang bata, elementary lang pong natapos ng nanay ko, labandera nga po siya. Kaya po siya ang aking unang teacher. Ay siya ang nagturo sa aking magsulat ng pangalan at tinulungan ako sa assignment nung bata pa po ako. At hindi lang po yon, binili rin niya ako ng blackboard at doon po ako nag-practice na sumulat. And then another participant told me that she was enticed to go to school every day because her father brought her to school and reminded her about the value of study para sa kinabukasan. So wag nating isipin na wala naman tayo mako-contribute. Kahit na maghatid lang tayo, kahit na tumulong tayo sa pag-iimpake ng kanilang gamit, ibili natin ng lapis, napakalaking bagay na yun para sa mga bata. Okay, so next slide please. What are the values of the Filipino family? Tingnan nga natin to, itong picture na to. This picture is entitled as Family Feast by the artist. Ano sa tingin nyo? How do you feel about the picture? Sige nga, reactions. How do you feel about the picture?
Masaya.
Do you agree with him that this is a feast? In sa chat group, do you agree with him that this is a feast? Why? Fiesta ba nga ba yan? A feast is a banquet. Yes, definitely po. Bakit? Okay, bakit? Bakit ganun, no? A feast is a banquet, a celebration, a lavish dinner. Oh, kasi masaya. Okay, sabi sa chat group, yes, kasi masaya. We see the children smiling, relating with one another, while the mother is happily cooking a viand. The father, the one with the straw hat, seems to be likewise saying to the kids beside him. Okay? So, sabi nga ng chat group, celebrating togetherness. Sama-sama, masaya sila, love is present, they are sharing, eating together, no? Pakikiisa at pagsasama. What more can you like? No? What more can you ask for? So, there are several Filipino values depicted here. One is masaya ang pamilya kapag sama-sama. Okay? Kahit na ano ang pinagsasaluhan, ito ay napakasarap kung kasama ang pamilya. Ang pagiging kontento sa kung anong meron ka ay susi sa kaligayahan. So you might not have much, but if you have something, okay, unity. So you have a lot already. Okay, so next slide please. So we now come to our topic number 1. What are the common values of Filipino families? My research showed that there are 5 common values of Filipino families. Actually, ito before COVID-19, but it could still be true, no? But because it interferes, COVID-19 interferes with our value. Okay, number 1, individual behaviors and achievements reflect on the family and bring about pride or shame. Okay, diba sabi ko kanina, collectivist culture tayo. Yung isang magandang ginawa ng isang family member natin reflects on the whole family as well as the bad deeds. Okay, kaya madalas natin sabihin sa mga bata, magpakastino ka, umayos ka, ha? Kasi nakakahiya sa kanila, nakakahiya sa iba. Okay? So hence, we are very much concerned that our children are obedient, respectful, do very well in their studies, and the like. Alam niyo, nakakakita pa nga ako ng mga grades sa social media. Okay? So itong magpo-post na to, no? It can have positive as well as negative outcomes. So positive, it could motivate our children to do more. On the downside, a teacher told me that she noticed that one of her students changed her grades kasi yung teacher sinole yung mark papers sa mga estudyante. Tapos, nung ibalik sa kanya, nakita niya, iba na yung grade. No? So, from 80, naging 88. Wow, magic. No? Biglang tumaas. When pressed, the student told her that she did this in order not to anger her mom. She said her mom shows her test papers to her friends, and that happens to be an honor student. No? Sometimes, it's the cause of depression. Hindi na makakapag-cope up sa needs, requirement ng parents. Okay, number 2, parents are authoritarian. Children are expected to conform to parents' orders and sacrifice individual interests for family obligations. There was a time when I was interviewing, alam nyo, yung mga graduating students, di ba? And I asked them, what are your plans upon graduation? Graduate na kayo eh. Ano ba? Tingnan ko lang, baka sabihin nila, gusto ko nang bumili ng cellphone, no? Kasi kung ano-ano lang yung ginagamit nila. However, on the contrary, most of them said that they plan to help their parents in sending their siblings to school and buying a house for their families, since some of them live in rented houses. So it's very noble, Hindi lang para sa kanya. Talagang it enforces our collectivist nature. This is an indication that the students wanted a better life, not just for themselves, but for their families. Okay. Ito naman, medyo extreme to, yung ikukwento ko. Another instance was when I was interviewing in a halfway house a person who is a survivor of an incest case. Alam niyo naman siguro yung incest case, no? I will not elaborate. The person still felt guilty, no, for the thought of causing hardship to the family because of the complaints. Kasi napunta sa piitan yung kinomplain niya. However, yung sabi niya sa akin, and you might still be surprised. The person still wanted to be reunited with the family, even with the perpetrator. Ganon niya, ganon sobrang kamahal natin ang ating pamilya kahit na anong gawin sa atin. This goes to show that our respect for our parents is deeply ingrained in us. So ano sinabi ko dun sa tao? I just told the person that time and experiences will heal wounds. While some things are very difficult at present, the future is something to look forward to. So anong sabi ko sa kanya? Ikaw naman, tatanda ka rin, magkakaroon ng family, yung mga parents mo, tatanda na rin. So, later on, you will be able to help them in the way that you can. And you will be able to share with them in the way that you can. Okay. So, that is, no? That way, the person can still show respect. But it goes to show that very much ingrained talaga yung love for our parents sa atin. Okay, the next slide, please. Now, eto, we have our next slide shows that we have two other values, no? Children to satisfy certain parental needs, and that the satisfaction of specific needs affects parents' childbearing orientations. Okay? Yung even a good and competent child, the most frequent responses of Filipino mothers pertain to obedience towards parents. Kasi may research no, na ginawa. Ang sinabi noong ng mga parents in the barrios, yung obedience towards parents. Kapag sinabi, ano ba ang konsepto mo ng mabait at magaling na bata? Obedience towards parents, being helpful in household chores, caring for younger siblings, and providing for the needs of the family. Okay? So children must have utang na loob towards their parents. If not, the child will be known as walang hiya or not a good child, not a decent person. So, sabi ng research, the Filipino youth subscribes to parental authority, lower disagreement with parents, and sticks to fulfilling family obligations than their Western counterparts. So, mas ingrained sa atin yun. Sa iba, yung pagka 18 years old ka na, no, sa ibang kultura, you have an obligation, to live on your own or, earn already. Dito hindi. Kahit na nga, may asawa na, okay lang sa atin. That's the Filipino culture. Okay? So, however, there are positive and negative sides to this. Excuse me. The positive side is that children are reared in accordance to some tried and tested formula. It scaffolds a child to submit actions which were proven to be useful for the family. So hindi na tayo titingin pa ng ibang gagawin. Kasi ito na yung hinanded down sa atin. Today, however, especially during the pandemic, a lot of things are very different. Kahit na nga pala na dumating sa ating buhay, ito ay nakakapagpabago. And some for the better, no? And some for the worse. But I would think that it's for the better because as long as we survive, a lot of things that happen to us will be happening for the betterment. Okay, so we must be aware of the pandemic's impact on children. Like a child who used to be obedient is now acting up. So ano na siya, hindi yan nag-iinarte. Sabi niya, nag-iinarte ka, ano bang gusto mo? Bakit hindi ka kumilos dyan? Okay, does not want to do household chores and only interested in doing what he or she likes. O kaya nakasalampak lang doon, lost interest in doing anything. Well, there should be more understanding kasi nga pandemya to. This is not an ordinary time. No, we will be discussing that more. There should be understanding, patience, and observation. We cannot take the shortcut of labeling children like well, you are becoming a black sheep, no? Minsan ganon. But that's not good because it removes the self-respect of the child or any person. At kapag nawala ang self-respect, ang daming nawala. At as a parent, tayo rin ang mahihirapan. Okay? Ultimately, when children fail, we parents also fail. Okay? Try to get to know the child better. The child may be bullied. Okay? May mga online bullies na ngayon or may not like online education or simply grieving over the loss of face-to-face interaction. Kasi yun ang gusto niya. Doon siya nabubuhay. Okay? Okay, next slide please. Okay, number 5. Children are expected to practice filial piety or duty, respect, love due from a son or daughter. Ano nga ba yung filial piety? No? Ito yung dapat na mahalin mo ang isang mong anak. Ito ay dapat na mahalin ka ng isang anak. Parang entitlement natin yan as parents. No? Kahit na anong ginawa niya sa'yo, mahalin mo po. No? Kahit na neglect mo yan. You know, in the course of my work as a counselor and psychologist, I sometimes come across children who think that their parents are only concerned about themselves and do not really love them. Alam ko may mga teachers dito, 'di ba, sa ating sa ating grupo. So, have you come across children who tells you that they do not really they are not appreciated by their families? When some incidents are related to me, like them being neglected and abused, paano yun, beaten up, shouted at, or insulted, and the like, I keep an open mind about the dynamics within their families. Okay? Kaya lang, kahit na anong sabihin, kahit na anong excuse, this is really hurting the children. Kasi alam nyo ba, despite the neglect, children still love their parents. And they still feel a strong sense of duty towards them. Kaya kung kahit na natin minsan i-neglect, no, the children still feels a strong sense of duty towards the parents. Being treated badly and still being expected to practice filial piety is sometimes a cause of depression for children. Bakit? It is because the child cannot reconcile. Hindi niya maisip no? Kung bakit ang isa na dapat ay alagaan siya, hindi siya inaalagaan. At minsan minumura siya, sinasaktan siya, pero ina-expect rin na respetuhin siya at mahalin siya. Okay? When the child develops strong anger, this results sometimes to depression. Kapag yung anger ay outside, rebellion yan, no? Pero kapag inside, depression, if it's expressed inside, and the child also experiences guilt and dissonance within himself and herself. Bakit namumuhi ako sa parents ko? Bakit ganito? Ay hindi dapat mahalin ko yan. Pero kasi nineglect ako no? Okay? So, now, number 6, family as the major site of gender socialization of Filipino children. Males are treated differently than females in accordance with parents and society's gender expectations. You know what? The research would show that females, ang mga babae, ewan ko, no, yung mga babae sa audience, we are given, well, ako babae rin, we are given more tasks home. bakit sa tingin ninyo dumami? We are supposed to be very much advanced. People are so much we are expected to weather this out. Pero ba't mas naging mali? Okay, this is because we are already global. Hindi natin ina-expect yun because we have grown complacent. Our economies and lives are already joined with people from other continents. Before, infections are localized because of the distance barrier. Now, it takes only a few hours for countries to get infected. Okay? So, one theory was that there was an international conference attended by different nationalities. So, nabasa ko to, no? Yung mga big spreader daw. May isa daw international conference na maraming iba-ibang nationalities ang nag-attend, but specifically Western, mga US. When these nationalities went back to their countries of origins, they became the big spreader. So isang country lang, tapos mabisita natin yon ay kumakalat na ang pandemya. Okay? And it's the most devastating event in 100 years. Research also indicated that it lasted for 2 years. Okay, so 2020 ngayon, 21, 22. So 22, baka if no vaccine, no? Ito, I'm not sure kung may vaccine dito, pero it's supposed, no, yung Spanish flu lasted for 2 years. Okay. Now it also has dual public health and economic crisis. Akala natin dati, no, it was just a health concern. Uy, baka ako mahawa, ganon. But that's not true. It has a greater impact on our economy. Kasi kahit na ikaw ay walang sakit, natamaan ka rin, para ka rin nagkasakit. Bakit? Because we do not want to get sick. No? We do not want to get sick. In the absence of a vaccine, we stay home. Bakit? So life is more important than anything. However, we cannot also produce life-saving goods like food. So the problems become cyclical. No? Kaya hindi lang ito health. Ito ay very, very much an economic problem, an educational problem, a psychological problem. Lahat nito ay naging problem. Okay? So, next slide please. Okay, audience participation. What are your experiences, yung memorable, pinaka-memorable, this pandemic season? Sige nga, tingnan ko lang. I will give you 15 seconds. Paki-indicate sa chat box. Ano ang pinaka-memorable mo? Ano lang, bullets lang. Magastos. Magastos. Yeah, cannot eat out. Okay. Ano pa? Hindi ka makalabas. Oo. Fear, yes. Oo, we will be discussing that. Okay. Nagkaroon ng family bonding. Hindi ka nakatravel. Alam nyo ba, sino sa inyo ang mas nakatipid, no? Magastos sa kasi maraming nagpapabili, pero nakakatipid din. Tsaka we are able to rest well, more bonding time with families. Okay? Being paranoid, yes, we will be discussing that. Okay, so very good. Okay, next. What are the situations experienced by Filipinos during the pandemic season? Now let us see if your experience corresponds or have any similarity with the common pandemic experience of Filipino people. Okay, next slide please. Okay, so ito, no, nakikita natin dito, it's a cartoon and there are balloons, no, yung call-outs. So sabi ng balloon, isa, my stomach aches. Body pains could have emotional causes for children. Some children who fail to adjust to situations experience insomnia, trembling, fatigue, body pains, or soreness, indigestion, or throwing up. Others really miss the reassuring presence of school and friends, even teachers. Yes, nami-miss din nila tayo. And then, on the next one, parents fighting due to problems. Parents sometimes take out their frustrations with one another or with events by fighting, shouting. It is similar to a big release of tension, but it terrifies the children. So children cannot also visit their relatives. Oftentimes, these relatives are the protective factor of children when parents fight. Grandmother or titas provide food and hugs, consolation to children. However, now they are forced to witness violence since only limited people can go outside. So ano pa? Other children of frontliners feel discriminated against as what the news indicates. So yan, isa yung issue. Okay? Other parents do not want their children to play with them as they might be infected by the virus. This fosters among them feeling of rejection and stigma. Okay? So isa pa, yung last issue dyan is education. For some children, especially those who come from troubled homes, the school is the only place where they can be themselves. It is where a lot of affirmation comes from, especially if the child is doing well and have many friends. Now, when it was suddenly taken out, without any warning or preparation for the child now views the world as a threatening place, since it fails to provide the routine and continuity which the child needs to thrive. Okay? So I think we have lost the PowerPoint presentation. Anyway, I will just be discussing what are the contents, no, of the power. Anyway, a lot of the what I'm saying is not indicated there. Okay, the next slide is this shows the parents, the fears of the parents. No, ano ba kayo? Ano ang kinakatakot ninyo for your family? Now, this slide shows the parents' dormant fear of his family not having anything to eat, and it has now come alive. As first, this is one of our worst fear. Food maintains body and mind. We cannot stand to see our children suffering or crying because there is no food on the table or because we are not able to provide a more delicious and nutritious option. Alam nyo, hindi lang yon, ano? A job, siguro ano pa, previous pa, yan, okay. A job is also, thank you, a job is also tied to self-esteem and confidence. A lot of us may complain about our jobs, but it is also the source of our pride and our way of contributing to family and society. If we lose our jobs, we not only lose a source of income, but a part of our self-confidence and self-respect. Alam nyo, meron ng ibang mga nagsasabi sa akin, ng mga kaibigan, uy, wag mo sasabihin na wala akong trabaho, ha? Saka mo na lang sabihin kapag nakahanap na ako. No? Kasi ayaw nating malaman na wala tayong trabaho. And loss of job could lead to depression. Another fear is for the parents and loved ones getting infected. Media has depicted the hardship of suffering in the face of having a COVID-19 infection. Add to that the possible expenses which could run to hundreds of thousands and for others, millions. If parents are worried about putting food on the table, how much more getting treatment for COVID-19? Okay, so ito yan. So now we go to what are now the common situations? So next slide, please. Next slide, please. What are the common situations? Okay, in the absence of adequate testing capabilities and selective containment measures. So, according to research and the practices of other countries, it's testing and tracing, no, yun daw, among others, which are very, very important. Now, what we do is social distancing and other measures like quarantine. Okay, so what are your experiences, no? Like social distancing. It might seem weird at first, but now we are slowly adjusting to it. Hindi na tayo pwedeng magkita-kita sa dating kainan after a hard day's work. Mas lalo na beso-beso or hugging. So it has changed our lifestyle in a matter of days. Okay, so slide 16. Okay. What are the implications of the quarantine measures on the Filipino family? First, we are confined in a very small space. That is a person deprived of liberty lang ito nangyayari. Today, all of us are forced to practice it. We are lucky if there is space to move around in our houses. But what about families who live in one single room or those who have one or two bedrooms but very small spaces? A lot of us live that way. Dati pagka sinabi, nasaan si nanay? Nandun po, nasa labas, nagpapahinga lang po, nakaupo. Saan ang tatay mo? Nandiyan sa labas, natutulog lang sa bangko. Nasaan si Junior? Nandiyan sa labas, nakikipaglaro. Okay? We utilize the streets, the adjacent lot to rest and pass the time to eat and sleep. Currently, we are forced to pass the time in our small space with children crying, our siblings quarreling, parents complaining, and others. This results in violence. RA 9262 describes violence as physical violence, sexual violence, and psychological violence. If you or somebody you know is suffering from these types of violence, report them to the barangay. Alam nyo, yung barangay is really very, very active now. And they can help a lot of people. Okay, so next slide, please. So another effect of quarantine measure is social distancing. Alam nyo, pagka times like this, napaka-importante ng social support. No? Pero, nawala ngayon kasi we have loss of social support. It is very hard to access this type of support due to quarantine. You have to have money to be able to buy load. You also have to have parang inner resources, know how to manage social physical distancing. Also, community quarantine results to isolation, loneliness, insomnia, fear, confusion, frustration, boredom. You know, we Filipinos are fond of reunions and meeting our former, office mates, classmates, and friends. So alam ko, the rest, you have a lot of chat groups, di ba? Meron tayong elementary, high school, o alumni, college friends, sa office. Tapos may chat groups pa tayo sa mga estudyante, di ba? Now, these chat groups usually meet periodically. Siyempre, lang namang hindi tayo magkita-kita. Now, we cannot do that. So, we are confused, frustrated, and worried that we might not be able to live our lives the way it was before. We now have the new normal. Okay? So, the next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide. Nawala yata. Okay. As mentioned before, it has job loss. It has economic as well as psychological implications. Okay, being heard? Okay. The second issue of Filipino families is job loss. As mentioned before, it has economic as well as psychological implications. So dati, ano ang remedyo natin? O di wala kang trabaho, o edi, you look for another job. So few jobs are available. Okay? So few jobs are available now. Okay, tapos sabi naman, work abroad. companies are also closing there if we're going to work abroad and then study a different track. We are unsure of how education will be conducted today. So, yung mga remedies natin sa job loss ay parang hindi na natin nagagamit. We seem to be trapped and caught unaware. Okay? And then job loss, the results are anger and irritability and the rest. Okay? More so when it is unplanned. It was difficult for entrepreneurs. It could also be difficult for employees. Okay. The third issue for the Filipino families is fear for one's life and for loved ones. This results in anxiety, hoarding. So in the initial days, I got a warning from a friend who told me to go shopping before the ECQ. Kasi sa kanila daw, sa country daw nila, ay nahirapan sila. Shelves were empty. Okay. Even if we have jobs, some of us opted to resign, especially frontliners who are scared about getting this disease. Hence, we are left with no job. Next is the worsening of obsessive-compulsive disorders. These are cleaning and contamination compulsions. So, I had a way of dealing with the pandemic actually. In the early days, after shopping, alam nyo ginagawa ko? I used to live in the sun for 1 hour, my loose change. Kasi sabi nila, ito ay maganda na pang-disinfect. One time, it suddenly rained and I think you know what happened. Di basa yung aking mga loose change, no? However, I was happy that after the currencies dried, they look okay again. I did not have any OCD indications, but I could just imagine the difficulties of one who has it. Next slide, please. Okay, next slide. Okay, so the fourth issue that the Filipinos experience is the Filipino experience is the stigmatization of frontliners. A lot of Filipinos are frontliners. You know, I was interviewing one day a sous chef and he told me that the reason why he became sous chef in his early 20s was that he was fond of doing backroom work. Ano yung backroom work? Preparing the ingredients, mixing them, cooking, and cleaning up the work area. He told me that other students during his practicum days just wanted to stay in the front desk to meet other people. Now there is stigmatization of some frontliners. The government even have to have some rules in order not to discriminate among them. Okay, so it results in isolation. Okay, so next slide is the disparity of roles. Yan. The disparity of roles between men and women, and then the heightening of gender issues. Women provides most housework and frontline interaction. When parents are busy, no, the female handles cooking, washing clothes, and the rest. Okay, so ito pa, nangyayari pa to. Discrimination on other genders. Sometimes we natitis, nabubuli yung mga iba ang gender. Okay? So, but as what I told you before, this is not helpful as the LGBT person might lose self-esteem. So, what is, ano yan? Kasi may SOGI bill na tayo ngayon. No? Yung SOGI bill. Actually, we have undergone orientation. So, it is unlawful to insult or to say anything demeaning to other genders. So in psychological naman, no, yung gender dysphoria, you have this you have gender dysphoria if you are not comfortable with your gender. But if you are comfortable, then there's no problem. Okay, so it is not, that is the implication of that. Okay, so next, now we are now into managing. Now, the next slide is about managing the family issues during the pandemic. So, yeah, that is the SOGI bill. So I just want to remind everybody, no, na in the SOGI bill, we have those. And the CHR will, can be asked to investigate, no, kung yung mga vilification against gender. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. How do we manage common family issues during the pandemic season? Okay, so management na tayo. Okay, number one is, next slide, okay, quarantine issues. So meron akong acronym BELL. Number one is find opportunity for family members to bond and get to know each other. So, or B, BELL. One theme of this talk is season, only a period. Hence, we can already make a list of we want to enhance in our families. One day, when our children have grown up, they will remember this time and feel warm thinking of how our parents protected and cared for them. So, pwedeng hindi na to dumating ulit. Maybe in 100 years. Okay? So routine is very important. It establishes continuity and trust that whatever happens, somebody is there to care. So have specific time for meals, bath time, bonding time, etc. And level up the love. You know, with me, I practice this by getting in touch with at least one family member or one friend outside of our family every day, especially yung mga those who live alone, no, you can get in touch with them. So it will bring you to different places and events. Okay, next. Next slide, please. So how do we manage manage job displacement? Okay, so Kaban, create work. You know, right now there are lots of opportunities, no? Lots of opportunities for us to earn. Sabihin natin na walan tayo ng pera. You know, I'm also a member of Marketplace. Pero yung Marketplace na yon, more or less, we buy, no? Kagaya nun yung isang, I think, ano yun, nagtinda siya ng yung palitaw, and she was able to sell, no, mga 40 tubs. And that's only 60 per tub. So, isa na ako dun sa bumili. So, if there are, you know, there are difficulties, there are also opportunities. An agreement of conduct among family members. Like, for example, o walang bastusan, o walang sigawan. Okay? Verbalization of feelings. When you're hurt, you say it. Sabi mo, ayoko ng ganyan, mami. O ayoko ng ganyan. Walang sigawan. Okay? Walang no blaming. Okay, adjustment in reduced means of living. So, sabi nga nung isa kong eskwela, sa gabi, light lang ang kinakain kasi matutulog din, no? So, we just have to adjust, hindi naman to forever. And then, need for positivity and understanding grief. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so understand the stages of grief. Very briefly lang. First, you have the denial. Hindi ako nawala ng trabaho. Okay? Next, we have the anger. Nagagalit ka. Kasi bakit nangyari itong COVID-19 na to? Okay? And then, bargaining. No? Sige, basta magkatrabaho lang ako, I will give my best. And then, depression. No? Depression, it's the darkest period. No? However, after depression, acceptance. Okay, so if you're depressed, losing anything, kasi this one is yung cycle of grief, talagang parang loss of a loved one. However, this is also applied to other things, to other losses. And also, you can have only 2 stages here. Okay, but the best part is, alam mo na kapag pinaka-darkest, will be ang kasunod noon ay acceptance na. Okay? So next slide, please. So fear for loved ones and fear for one's life and for loved ones. So stay at home. siguro naman hindi ko na ito kailangang ipaliwanag, especially for vulnerable population. Treatment for COVID-19 is very expensive and it takes a lot from our health. And then take care of our health. So, ano lang yan, eat the most affordable, nutritious food and prepare it. No, yung pinaka nutritious. And then E is evade platforms with negative and gloom outlook. Huwag nyo nang tingnan yan, especially when you're going to sleep. Avoid looking at your phone. Mag-disconnect kayo mga 2 or 3 hours before sleeping. Kasi baka mamaya may makita kayo dyan, tapos may ikagalit ninyo, hindi pa kayo makatulog. So it's better that you disconnect 2 or 3 hours before sleeping. And then meditate, practice relaxation techniques and spiritual faith. Spiritual faith is very, very important. Okay? It gives us confidence and it relaxes us. Okay, next. The fourth one is stigmatization. For frontliners, kung frontliner ka, as teachers, hindi pa lang ngayon, pero pretty soon, we will be frontliners. Diba? Kasi tayo ang nasa talagang education. So we will be frontliners. So anong pwedeng gawin? Legal advice. No? If you are being discriminated against, so seek legal advice. Next, isolate but stay connected with family and friends and practice strict health protocols. Okay? So next, the last one, gender issues. Okay, so gender issues. Support as a family, no? Kasi napaka important ang support natin kahit na anong gender yan. Affirm and accept, understand all genders, no? Just because it is a majority gender, we should not suppress and disregard it. It's part of our lives. Hindi mo po pwedeng ialis yan. Okay? So, take the time to show possibilities in children. There are endless possibilities in children. So, that daughter who wants to be a welder or a mechanical engineer, and that son who wanted to be an early childhood teacher, they all have missions to pursue in life. Let them tell you about it, and if you feel that it's worthwhile, then support it all the way. Okay? A lot work proportionately to males and females. Hindi puro kay ate. Si kuya, paglutuin din natin, minsan paglabahin, di ba? And lastly, respect all genders. Okay, I think I have already discussed the importance of respecting genders. Okay, next slide, please. So I hope that we are able to get something out of it, and I leave you with this quotation. Everything in life is temporary. So if things are going good, enjoy it because it won't last forever. And if things are doing bad, don't worry. It can't last forever either. And so with that, thank you. And I hope that you are able to get something out of this. So the references are indicated in the last part of my slides. Thank you very much.
Isang napakamalaman at makabuluhang talk tungkol sa family dynamics during pandemic. Talagang natutunan natin na naapektuhan din ang ating mga pamilya during this time of pandemic and the quarantine season. At sa pamilya din tayo makahugot ng suporta sa isa't isa. Maraming salamat po ulit, Dr. Baka po, at sa ating mga nakasama ngayon sa Zoom meeting po na ito mula sa SDO Marikina at sa Schools Division of Manila na ating extension partner sa Pamantasang Normal ng Pilipinas, Manila Campus. At rin po sa mga nakasama po natin ngayon sa ating FB Live na napapanood po ngayon sa FB page po ng CPEO, PNU at Extension Partners 2020. Paalala lamang po sa panibagong lecture sa ating CPEO serve sa pangunguna ni Professor Maria Laarni Buenaventura ng Office of the Student Affairs and Student Services. Ang kanyang talk ay tungkol sa parenting tips for the new normal. Muli, marami pong salamat at magandang araw po sa ating lahat.